Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com. Welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Seth Greene. Today, I've got the good fortune to be with Jared Smithson. Jared, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Seth. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. So let's go back in time a little bit. How did you get started?
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. So I'll stick to the highlights. So we're basically two British guys running a company who pushed our way into the US tax space, which is a bit unusual itself, but that's how it went. So a bit about me: I'm someone who I love problems, and even better, I love finding solutions. And originally, I worked in a really, really busy restaurant. I loved it, lots of problems. And then COVID struck, and all of a sudden, we were sent home. We weren't working for a while. And at the time, my business partner had, in 2019, decided he was going to, open up his own Amazon store, his e-commerce business over in the US. That was where all the money was, we were told. And when we went over there, we found loads and loads of problems. How do we start a US business? How do we open a US bank? How do we navigate US sales tax, amongst all these kind of other problems? So, like it goes, we contacted attorneys, lawyers, accountants, and spent a lot of money getting advice, which wasn't concrete. They basically were happy to talk about their own state. They didn't want to talk about all the other states, and it wasn't really clear. So my partner, he basically went and did all the work himself. It took a ridiculous amount of time. It was really tricky, but he contacted the states, got the water from the source, and he got compliance. He got his US business. He got his US bank to sell on Amazon. And then guess what happened? Amazon suspended the store. So, that's how life goes. So he had a bunch of cash locked up in this Amazon store. He couldn't get out. And, it was a bit of a failure, as all of us entrepreneurs know happens. So what happened, we had a lot of mutual connections. People wanted to do the same thing in 2019. And people started saying, hey, how did you do the US bank? How did you do the sales tax compliance? So we told them what we did. And people were like, hell no, I'm not doing that. Can I pay you to do it? So, that's how it started. So he started that, and it was about, he had about 3 employees. Then 2020 hits, COVID happens, a lot of negative things around that. But when it came to online shopping, wow, did it explode. So the business exploded. It was him and 2 of the staff, and he had no idea what to do with himself. This is when I joined the team. I've got nothing to do. I'm at home with my wife, my son, itching to get back in some kind of game. And I join, and I have a lot of experience in building a team. And so I learned the business inside out, and I took the business. We grew from 3 people to 20 people in the space of 2 years. Crazy how fast. And then we've worked with 5,000 businesses in the last 5 years, and we work with 1,000 businesses on a month-to-month basis, doing all kinds of things, but mainly sales tax for e-commerce businesses like those who sell on Amazon, Shopify. So that's the highlights. There's a lot more to it, but yeah.
I'm sure the longer version could probably be in a book somewhere if it isn't already. So sales tax for e-commerce businesses, is there a size minimum on the e-commerce business? If we're an e-commerce store owner, e-commerce business, how do we know if we've got a problem that you guys can solve?
For sure. So one of the great things about selling online is you get to sell to all the states in the US. So you're not just locked in on your brick and mortar store, you get to sell everywhere. So one of the big mistakes people make is they think straight away, oh, do I then need to be registered with all the states? Do I then need to pay loads of money? No, you don't. You need to follow just some simple rules to determine where you need to get registered. There's a kind of a fancy word in the space called nexus, which is kind of a way of saying you have some kind of physical presence in the state or an economic presence. So what we do is we would typically help someone determine where they have nexus and then go from there. You'll find the biggest mistake people make is they register to everywhere, or somebody tells them, hey, you need to register in more places so we can get more money to look after it for you. Take your time, speak with a professional. That's what we do. That's the first thing we do. Speak to someone, free consultation, help them know where do you need to be.
Okay, so we're selling online. Um, what are some, other than, the Nexus part, what are some of the other problems you're helping those e-commerce businesses solve?
Yeah, for sure. So another big problem, I mean, tax isn't that exciting. So I'm going to try and make it exciting for listeners as much as I can with some quirky problems, is product taxability. So depending on what you're selling, it could be taxed differently at a different rate, not taxed at all. For example, in New York, you can go to the grocery store and buy a bagel. It shouldn't be subject to tax. If you slice it on half and put some toppings on there, it's now a prepared food that needs to be subject to tax. If you didn't know that already, there are all kinds of little quirky things like this that can really catch sellers out. A big one we had was somebody selling supplements. They thought it was taxed as a grocery, but in some states it's not classed as that. It would be something else. So it does catch people out in the very beginning, making sure you know what product, what kind of how it should be taxed is really important. Some people just think, oh, it sounds like it's this. I'll tick that box. I'll let the software do the rest. Then they have 4 years of liability adding up. So that's one big problem people face. Another one, I'm going to go a bit controversial here, but everybody loves AI these days. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's using ChatGPT as the new best friend and to get all the answers they need. And I also love AI. I'm not going to, you know, chuck on AI. But the problem we have a lot with AI is people use it without a human expert to go with it. And we have countless amounts of clients who think, hey, I'm going to hire this software preparer. It's going to do it all for me. It's hands-free. And then a huge issue happens, like you end up collecting tax everywhere because you did one tick and you don't realize you need to be educated, or you need to hire someone who can be educated for you. You can't just use AI by itself in the sales tax space. So have someone in your corner who knows what they're doing and talking about.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Is there a minimum size in terms of revenue of e-commerce business where, hey, below this number, you're just not going to move the needle for them and it doesn't make sense for them to try and work with you?
Yeah, so the majority of sellers we'll work with are people who are selling, around about 500,000 a year plus. That's when they're going to start reaching Nexus in states. We do start with a lot of sellers where they're just starting out, and we have a really, really cheap package for that because typically they'll only need to be registered in their business state. But there are some states where you'll cross the threshold when you make just 200 transactions. So that is when you need to start considering, registering more states. But we find that usually it's about 50,000 a month. That's when people being needed to register in about 10 states plus from there.
That makes a lot of sense. Are there any particular industries that have more issues? I mean, you mentioned like the supplement. Are there any industries or product lines that have more issues than others?
For sure. So the big number one at the moment is services. So services is just a huge gray area. If it's taxable or not? And every single state has its own rules. They classify it differently. Also, digital products, can it be taxed or not? So as we approach an age where there's so many more, software solutions, there's so many more digital products available, ebooks, this, that, and the other, the states have not caught up with these kind of businesses. So you'll find some of them are really on top of it. They'll tax it, others don't. But it's important that you don't just ignore it and then you make sure you're constantly staying on top of it because the rules are constantly getting updated. The states want your money, they want the tax, however they can get it. So we all know this, as Seth laughs. They're coming however they can. So you just need to make sure that you keep up to date with your information. What was true a year ago in this space could be completely wrong tomorrow.
You often mention misconceptions around sales tax. What's one belief about sales tax you wish every business owner would unlearn?
Great question. I think what's one that repeat the question though. Let's have it one more time. What?
So, what's a belief about sales tax you wish every business owner would unlearn? What's something that we all normally think and it's just wrong?
Okay, yeah. So what some people think is, let's say they have a business venture and it fails. They close the business. They think I'm personally protected. And the business has failed. If they had tax liability, let's say they collected sales tax and didn't pay it back, or they should have collected sales tax, the states can pierce the corporate veil and they can actually come for you personally, which is really, really surprising. Most of the time we think, oh, it's to do with the taxes, I can declare bankruptcy, but because it's classed as kind of a trust tax, it's different. So a lot of people think I can run the business for 5 years, it can be unsuccessful, and I'll be off the hook. But the states will probably come in 10, 15 years time and they'll get their due. So get it right from the beginning. I always say, prevent is better than cure. So make sure you're right at the start. Don't go chasing your tail down the line.
That makes a lot of sense. You've talked about how exemptions can save money, but a lot of business owners miss them. What are some of the top few exemptions that we should always be looking at?
Yeah, so obviously the name RJM Tax Exemption, one of the main things we used to help people with back in the day was helping people save sales tax when they're buying products. We found that so many online businesses, they would purchase products from their wholesalers and or anywhere else, and they'd be getting charged sales tax, and they wouldn't realize they don't have to pay that if they are reselling. You just have to supply a resale certificate. On average in the US, sales tax is 7%. So we had businesses who were purchasing, $100,000 a month in products, and they were paying sales tax without knowing it when they didn't need to. So they could save $7,000 a month straight to their bottom line profits. So it takes 2 seconds. Check your invoices. Are you being charged sales tax? Even if 99% of you know about it now, if one person listening checks it, we're on for a winner.
That makes a lot of sense. You have helped, as you mentioned, thousands and thousands of businesses. What's your biggest challenge now?
Biggest challenge for sure is going to be competition. When we started, there was significantly less competition. That's why a couple of UK guys could get into the space because no one was doing it. It was a great option. But what's happened is more and more AI software has come out. People are offering software solutions for what we do. But we find so many of those softwares, they don't have the support or the customer service to go with it, which is kind of what we're really plugging. We're here to give really hands-on approach. So you as a business don't have to worry about it. What happens with the software is they require you to add your logins, pre-approve all the returns, check if there's an issue with the software switching off, and you actually need to be more hands-on than you think, and they won't help you as much when it goes wrong. It's a lot of, it looks really positive initially, pretty dashboards, but it's really good to have somebody who is actually an expert in the space and knows what they're doing.
Absolutely. Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
So I love meeting entrepreneurs. So when you're working in this space, I'm generally working with a couple of business partners who exploded selling their business, and they're all so unique. You love entrepreneurs, they've all got a different story, and they all love to work with me because I'm taking away their headaches. So I love problem solving, I love taking away people's headaches, and I love people going, oh, thank you. What a way it is to not have to worry about this tax anymore. So that is my favorite part of the job. That initial call when someone says, here's my problem, and I go, we've got a solution for you.
That is awesome. For our folks who are watching and listening and want to learn more, where is the best place for them to learn about you?
Yeah, so just visit www.rjmtaxexemption.com. You can book a free discovery call anywhere on there, or you can drop us an email through a contact us form. If you do reach out to us or book a call, just mention you've heard me on the Sharkpreneur podcast. We'll give you an additional 10% off all packages.
All right. Well, this has been Seth Greene with Jared Smithson. Jared, thanks so much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Seth.
Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. We will talk to you or see you next time.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.